Krsna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Jai Harikashi Sri Guru Goranga Radha Sham Sundar Giridhari Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Shila Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Shila Guru Dev Ki Jai, Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai, Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai, Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Acharya Brinda Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So, today is Sunday, the 18th of April 2021, and we are continuing our discussion, which we began last week from Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 26 qualities of a devotee. So we nearly finished it last week, but the time got away from us, so we can continue that today. Here in London, it's very beautiful weather today, and the temple is now reopened to the public. We're not a public place of worship, Srila Gurudev. Srila Guru Maharaj never established Chaitanya Saraswat Math as a public place of worship, a private place of worship, but we allow members of the public to come and worship here with us, along with us. So this is from the Madhya Lila, chapter 22, the process of devotional service, and it is verse 78 to 80. Kripalu akrita droha satya sarasama nirdosha badanya mridu suchi akinchana sarvopakaraka shanta krishnaika sharana akama aniha stira vijita shadguna Mita Bhuk Apramata Manada Amani Gambira Karuna Maitra Kavi Daksha Moni. Devotees are always merciful, humble, truthful, equal to all, faultless, magnanimous, mild and clean. They are without material possessions and they perform welfare work for everyone. They are peaceful, surrendered to Krishna and desireless. They are indifferent to material acquisitions and are fixed in devotional service. They completely control the 6 bad qualities, lust, anger, greed, and so forth. They eat only as much as required, and they are not inebriated. They are respectful, grave, compassionate, and without false prestige. They are friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. So this is "26 qualities of Krishna's devotees," how you can identify a devotee of Krishna by their being replete with all these qualities, 26 qualities. So last week we discussed up as far, I think, of completely controlling the 6 bad qualities, and we discussed how the lust, anger, greed, and so on, they cannot be controlled by yoga practice, but only by bhakti, only by devotion. And in the scripture, the example to illustrate this is given in the case of Durvasa Muni, and that we discussed last week. So, Jai Gurudev. And so the next quality, Mita Bhuk. Mita Bhuk means eating only as much as required. So devotees are moderate in their consumption, not just eating, but in everything. They only take what they require and not more than that. nature of human beings is that we squirrel things away, store things away for a rainy day, so to say. You know, Srila Prabhupada gives the example. He says if we see like a sack of rice on the road, so that the animals, birds and the beasts and so on that will come along, they'll eat some of it, but only what they require, and then they'll go. But a human being, if he sees the bag of rice on the side of the road, he'll take the whole thing and take it home with him. So this is one quality human beings that we possess, which is, you can say, intelligent, but it's also can be detrimental. You see, recently in this, we're in this, lockdown situation due to this global pandemic, COVID-19. And what was the first thing? The first effect of COVID mania was that people started buying up everything in the supermarkets, particularly toilet roll. So, like people buying like boxes and boxes of toilet roll, there you are. But there you can see in this material world, there's a profit to be made from everything that happens, even that. So people panic buy. It's the same when, never mind, pandemics and things. Whenever there's a holiday, if the store is closing for a day or 2 days, people come in and buy as if the shop is never going to open again, and they take things home. This is kind of a defense mechanism, but it's not good for our consciousness, because you end up that where you live is just full of stuff. This is a thing that human beings now you see everywhere. Everywhere you go, there are self-storage shops. There's loads of them that you can rent a storeroom there and store all the stuff that you can't fit in your house. And why is that? Is because people think that just by acquiring more and more and more and more, they'll become satisfied. So, and by stuff, basically by stuff. So people go out and buy stuff, and they can't even fit that stuff in their house anymore, so they have to rent another place to store it in. We heard, that Michael Jackson, who's everyone knows, famous pop star, before he passed away, but he would just go, when he was feeling bored, he would just go around, Beverly Hills and to all these like antique shops or, places, and just buy stuff. Buy an antique lamp or, some furniture or something that caught his eye, something that looked very nice and cost a fortune. And it would just be sent straight into storage. He didn't even take it home. It would just go straight into storage. So this is a kind of a disease that we have, a mental disease of acquiring things more than we need. And also, as is specified here, eating more than we need. We can't just eat enough. We have to eat until we feel ill. This is what people do. They eat until they can't cram any more in. And it causes a type of brain freeze, that your body is so engaged in trying to digest that you can't think straight anymore. You just go into like a kind of stupor. That's why after a big meal people often fall asleep. But the devotees of the Lord, they honor prasadam. They don't take prasadam with any consuming mentality. We heard from Guru Maharaj that when the brother of Professor Sanyal, when he came to visit him, when he was living in the mott, his brother came to visit and asked him, like, what do you do here all day? And And Professor Sanyal said, nothing that you will be able to understand. And he said, well, that's not true, because I see you, eating rice, dal and chapatis and all of these things, and I also doing that. And Professor Sanyal said, no, we don't do that. We don't eat like you eat. We don't take food with a mood of consumption. We take Krishna Prasadam in the mood of honoring the Lord, honoring the form of the Lord in Prasadam. So only that's what we do, and it may look the same to you as eating rice, dal, and chapatis, but it's not the same thing at all. It's totally opposite to what you do. So the Vaishnavas, they don't have any mood of consuming. They are rather, the mood is always of service. So even taking prasadam, twofold. One is they are honoring it because it has been offered to the Lord, tasted by the Lord, and they're taking that with great relish. But also they are maintaining their body so that it will be useful for Krishna's service. So they're always moderate in their behavior, moderate in eating, moderate in fasting also. So then Guru Maharaj didn't really encourage fasting very much. He considered the maxim that he heard from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, take full prasadam, do full service. So on the Ekadashi days and so on, Guru Maharaj didn't really encourage the devotees to fast. He encouraged them to take anukalpa and thereby maintain their strength to do service. One of our god brothers, who was previously here in the London temple, he did something which he considered to be an offense, maybe to the deity or to Guru Maharaj or something, and he wrote to Guru Maharaj, like to confess his sins, so to say. He felt compelled to do that, and he said, I did this and I did that, and I think that it was very wrong. I feel very ashamed. And then Guru Maharaj's reply to his letter was, there is no punishment in Vaishnavism. In devotional service, there is no punishment or prayaschita. Prayaschita means something that you do to counteract the sinful thing that you've done. So sometimes that's recommended in the scripture, where the first particularly householders who they light fire and they to cook things and to keep warm and so on and all of these things, and by doing that they inadvertently kill so many living entities. So then some prayaschita is recommended to counteract that. But in devotion there is no such consideration. So anyway, Guru Maharaj he wrote the reply, or sent a reply. He said, if you feel that you want to do something in to sort of in recompense, or for what you did, then I can recommend you can fast on Ekadashi near Jal without water every Ekadashi for 1 year. That was Guru Maharaj's recommendation, and that devotee, he followed that recommendation faithfully for 1 year without taking any water or anything. But he wasn't a very healthy person to begin with, so on that day, the day of Ekadashi, he didn't rise from his bed. He just stayed in bed the whole day and fasting. But I don't think that Guru Maharaj would have approved of that. He would have said, no, take prasadam and do full service. So this is the practical application. The practical application that when we are taking and honoring the prasadam, as Saraswati Thakur said, honoring prasadam is never a matter of gluttony. So we should take what is good for us, and not to take so much prasadam that we have to go into a coma to digest it.
You eat little bit to live, not live to eat.
Exactly, as our learned colleague just said, we should eat to live, not live to eat. So we are not sense enjoyers in that respect, but at the same time we heartily relish Krishna's prasadam as his grace upon us, and we try to understand how it has been tasted by the Lord. And that way that thing will not only give us physical nourishment, but spiritual nourishment also. So, and the next is, so that is, where are we? Mitabuk, then apramata. And apramata means without inebriation. That means they're never intoxicated. And that doesn't just mean that they don't drink and they don't smoke and they don't take drugs, or that is a given. But Srila Guru Maharaj said that the mood of enjoyment, to try to enjoy the things of this world, is also a type of intoxication, because it becomes a mania, running after this thing and that thing and anything that comes up in front of our sensual purview. We want to enjoy with that. That's a type of intoxication, a type of inebriation, a kind of mania, and that will mean that we lose control of our good sense. So, not to be inebriated. That means that sober. You should be sober and measure things in a sober way, whatever comes in front of us. As Krishna says in the Gita, matra sparshas tu kunteya, shito sa sukadukada, agama paino nityas tam titikshasha bharata. So he's saying that happiness and distress, they're coming anyway. They come to you anyway, whether you want them or whether you don't want them. And we can say everybody wants happiness and nobody wants distress. But nevertheless, distress is coming to you. It's already preordained. So what does Krishna say? They come they arise like the winter and summer seasons. They just happen in the due course of life. Then he tells Arjuna, you should just tolerate them when they come to you. So then we can think, oh yes, suffering will come, I should tolerate the suffering. But also when enjoyment comes to us, we should tolerate that also, not be carried away by that. And that's our nature, is that we become carried away by the enjoying spirit. So, as we mentioned last week, if we won the lottery tomorrow, and of course, most devotees won't win the lottery because they don't do the lottery, but if some great fortune came, an inheritance or something like that, a great increase in wealth, the likelihood is that we would become mad with that. And we see that people do that. They go mad when they get a huge influx of wealth. So, and we are not immune to that either. If that comes to us, we're not immune to most of us. We can say that'll happen if suddenly you inherited some money or won the lottery or something like that. You're bound to be excited by that, by the prospect of how much you can enjoy with your new fortune. But Srila Prabhupada, again, he said, if I have $1 million, if this morning someone gives me $1 million, I'll have spent it by this afternoon. And that was his ethos. Whatever comes in my hand, I will utilize that for Krishna service. That is the way that we will not be controlled by these things. Rather, we can utilize everything in Krishna's service if we try to approach it with a dispassionate nature, and better than a dispassionate nature, a service-centric nature. So whatever comes in front of us, we see that as the will of the Lord, we see that as the mercy of the Lord, and we try to utilize that in the service of the Lord as is appropriate to our circumstance. So then, that's apramata. And manada means respectful. The devotees of Krishna are always respectful to everyone. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent his preachers to London, to the West, there's a famous lecture that he gave before, like a kind of farewell talk that he gave to those devotees. And he said, don't think that you're going there to give them anything that they don't have materially. Because in almost every way, they are materially superior to you. And of course, in those days, that was, of course, true. But what we are trying to do is to give the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami. And that should be our guiding principle. And that's the only reason why we are engaging in the propagation of Krishna consciousness. Not to establish ourselves as superior to anyone, but rather to respectfully invite everybody to take advantage of this great thing. That thing which has helped us so much in our own life, naturally we will want to share that with others. We want to share our good fortune with others. Devotees are always generous. And the best thing that they can do is to share Krishna consciousness with others. So, and that actually will be how Krishna consciousness spreads. Not by pulpit preaching, you can say, but rather by sharing our realizations and sharing our fortune with others. This has helped me so much in my own life, and I consider it to be the most valuable thing. I consider that you are my friend, and I want to do good for you. Then I want to share this with you as much as I can. Give something to you that has been helpful to me. And if we can do that in an honest way, that will be for our good fortune and also for their good fortune. Krishna consciousness is something that expands by giving it to others. Like everything in this material world, if you give it to somebody else, then it's diminished in your pocket, if you like. If you give your money to someone else, your bank balance will go down. But in spiritual life, when you try to give Krishna consciousness to others, according to our capacity, we are not great saints or anything by any means, but we are trying to respectfully share what we have with others, then that will be not diminishing us, but it will actually enhance ourselves and enhance everybody around us. So, but we are to be respectful, and this is Mahaprabhu's advice actually, to be humble, to be tolerant, and to give honor and respect to others. So we should try to honor everyone, try to respect everyone. And we may not agree with another's point of view, but we can still respectfully hear them. And in that way we can engage with them. What they want to say, if they will discuss that with us, we can see, this person is of this conception, and how we can apply the Krishna conception to that. and not in an arrogant way, but in a respectful way. You know, often they say it's not about always being right or being correct. You know, like proving that your position is the superior position. Rather, sometimes it is better to be kind. Better to be kind to others, because maybe not everyone will remember your philosophy, but if you are kind to others, they'll remember that about you. Oh, that person was so kind to me. They helped me in this way and that way, or, you know, in a very practical way. We hear that in the time of Mahaprabhu, or just after Mahaprabhu, that in Vrindavan, Sanatana Goswami, he was like considered like that. He was considered like the benevolent grandfather of everybody. And people would come to him with all kinds of problems, not just to hear spiritual discourse from him. And whatever way that he could help others, he would help them. And everybody loved him for that. And when you love, when somebody is beloved, then you're more likely to listen to what they have to say than somebody who's always just antagonistic and trying to prove their point. So then it is important for us to be respectful to others, because they are also the eternal servant of Krishna. They may not have realized that yet, but in their heart, the Lord living within their heart, just as the Lord living within your own heart, then therefore we should try to acknowledge that and respect those persons. They may be covered by illusion, and we are all covered by illusion. It's only a matter of degree. But you know, sometimes when the patient is able to cooperate with the doctor, then the cure becomes closer and easier. But sometimes the disease is so bad that they have to place the patient in an unconscious state because they are not able to cooperate. So similarly, we may not always be able to preach Krishna consciousness to everybody. You can say, like, in a straight way, you can say. But sometimes we should just deal with people in an honest and helpful and respectful way. And that they will remember. Otherwise they may remember, oh yeah, that guy who was really arrogant, is just like trying to take down everything I believe in and establish himself as the big I am. But why would we want to be remembered for that? Or rather, no, that person was very helpful to me, very respectful to me, and I think they're a very nice person, and I might go and see them again. Maybe I'll listen to what it is that they believe in. So this is one quality of the Vaishnava, respectful, because actually the truth is that we ourselves are not anything special. We are all ordinary men and women, but we have come into connection with something wonderful, something greater than ourselves, some fortune higher than our own self. Then, naturally, if that is real within us, we will want to try to share that with others. We will want to be a satellite for that. So that should be, our first thought. Physician, heal thyself. As Srila Gurudev used to say, my religion is finding fault with myself. We don't need to spend our time looking at the faults of others, because it is just a waste of time. There's nothing you can do to change another person, but you can change yourself. And if you change yourself, then you may have an effect on others that just rubs off on them. If you are the best devotee that you can be, then that will, if it is genuine, that will impress people more than any kind of philosophical argument. oh, those Hare Krishna people, they're so nice. They're always sharing everything, giving food and, you know, help to others, and they're very nice people. So that is manada, which is also contained in Mahaprabhu's third instruction, amanada, manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. So manada, and then amani. Amani means without false prestige. So the opposite side of the coin, when we are thinking that we are very big and very qualified and everybody should listen to what we have to say, then it is very difficult for us to remain respectful to others. So we are not to be arrogant, and we are not to be, you know, in Srila Prabhupada's language, he would say, not to be puffed up. So, you know, that is one side effect when we get a little knowledge about the self, is that sometimes we can become a little puffed up with our position and thinking that we are more than others. So that is a kind of a false idea, because you know the saying, there but by the grace of God go I. So we should always consider in this way, that no, we are not anybody of any particular importance, but we have received some grace from the Lord. And it is not grace that we necessarily deserve, but it is grace that has been causelessly given to us. So we are to try to not only to be respectful to others, but not to be puffed up with our own self-importance. That will not help us, actually. And as much as one is in connection with the reality, with the plane of reality, that much necessarily one will feel humble. One will feel himself to be very small. Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says, when writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he says, I am lower than the worm in stool. I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai. And if anyone even hears my name, all of their piety will run away from them. So then what are we to think? That we know he is a Param Vaishnava, he is our guru. He is our guru of the highest type, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. But he is saying like this. But it is not just a posture. It's not just, well, I have to be humble, then I should say this about myself. But it's his actual feeling. We can say, that once Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj, he asked Guru Maharaj this question. Oh, but Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's given this example that, of being lower than the worm in stool, more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and so inauspicious that if even by hearing his name, all your piety will disappear. So we know he's not that, but what if you actually are that? Then what? And Guru Maharaj said, oh, you think he's posturing? And he said, no, not that. Yes, we understand that he thinks this is his actual position, but we know that he is not that. But what is the case if you are that? And Srila Guru Maharaj said, oh, such feelings are coming in you. And Goswami Maharaj said, no, Maharaj, but we know we are that I am that. I know that. And Guru Maharaj said, oh, such feelings are coming in you. So, then it's only natural that a devotee will think himself to be very lowly and unqualified. If they are really a devotee. No real devotee will ever say that they are a high type of person, that they are a perfect person or anything. They will never say such a thing and never think such a thing even. So it's the other side of being respectful, is not to be full with prestige, self-prestige or pratishta. That is the enemy of devotion. Karnaki, Kamani, and Pratishta. These are the three enemies of devotion. Kanaka means wealth, because with wealth you can just do whatever you like, can't you? You can engage in all sorts of sensual activities if you have wealth, because everything requires some money. So Kanaka and Kamini. Kamini means, you know, the opposite sex. To have association with the opposite sex in a sensual way, in an unrestricted way. That is also not helpful for devotional service, because that carries us away from our real consciousness. And Pratishta. And of all of them, Pratishta is the worst. Pratishta means that prestige, that you are a great man or a great woman, or you are a great, you know, as they say, as the advert says, because you're worth it. Now, this is just like a, you know, sloganeering. It is not actually helpful to our real spiritual understanding. It is not that therefore we have to hate ourselves. You know, we have to despise ourselves. As somebody said very nicely, that real humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. So if you can understand the difference between that. Those who are really humble, they're not thinking about their position, they're thinking about others. They're always thinking about the welfare of others and how they can be of use to others, of how they can serve the center and how they can serve others in that, within the compass of that. So not thinking less of yourself. Humility doesn't mean self-hatred. It just means that you don't think about your own self so much. You're always thinking about the welfare of others before your own welfare. That is what humility means. And not to be overwhelmed by our desire for accomplishing things in this material world. That will not be useful to us, actually. It will just be more of a millstone around our neck. The more that we accomplish in this material world, the more so-called success that we have in this material world, the more that we are bound to this material world. Because we identify with that. So we should not endeavor for those things. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, there's nothing you can do to prevent your karma coming about. It's already preordained. It's already coming to you. How much you're going to be happy, how much you're going to suffer, that's already coming to you. There's nothing you can do to change that. And also, there's nothing you can do to make that come to you. There's, you know, it's coming already. So don't waste your time with those things. Rather, just accept that when it comes. Good and bad, everything. As Krsna says to Arjuna, with tolerance, tolerate it when it comes to you. Tolerate the good, tolerate the bad. Try to be, you know, indifferent to that as much as possible. And then when that feeling comes to you, if you can just be, indifferent to it, indifferent to the excitement of accomplishing things in this world, indifferent to the disappointment of failing in the things that you want to achieve in this world. Then you can be equal in both situations. Then you will be peaceful. We become agitated when we don't receive the things that we endeavor for. And we know what happens there. Krishna explains that in the Gita. Jai Shri Sri Guru. Our attempts at gratification of this material world, when they go wrong, what happens is, when that becomes obstructed, we become angry. And when we are angry, then we lose all sense of self-control. And we act in a mad way, and it just goes downhill from there, basically. So try to be indifferent as much as possible, and so without false prestige, not to think so much of ourselves, but not to think less of ourselves, but of ourselves less.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes,
I
Prabhu.
forgot that part, like Kanak Kamini Pratishtha, right?
Yeah.
I remember that Pratishtha is for Guru,
Yes.
and Kanak and Kamini is for...
Saraswat Thakur wrote a poem actually explaining this. Kanak means wealth is the property of Narayan. So Narayan is the lord of Lakshmi. You know, they say the money, some devotees, they call money Lakshmi, don't they? They say, have you got the Lakshmi, Prabhu? So they have a little thing in the morning and they say, so-and-so made so many Lakshmi points. I was very surprised when I found out what Lakshmi points were. But it means money. So the wealth is the property of Narayan. He is the Lord of Lakshmi. So all wealth meant for Narayan. And Kamini, all women meant for Krishna. And all prestige, pratishtha, meant for Gurudev. So this is the proper application of those three things. And Saraswat Thakur expressed this in a poem. And somebody, when he was giving a lecture, they said, oh, in your poem you said, you know, all wealth for Narayan, all women for Krishna, and all prestige for Sri Guru. And he said, but we are men. What about us? You know, like, you say all women for Krishna, but we are also men. So what about us? What's our position? And Saraswat Thakur said, it is very clear, you have no position. So, you know, maybe that's a bit of a bitter pill for us to swallow. But actually it is if we can accept that, then there's no possibility of our exploiting the things of this world for our own gratification. So, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, you should regard your family members as the servitors of Lord Krishna. One should regard his wife as the maidservant of Krishna. One should regard his children as the servants of Krishna. And in this way, how will it be possible for you to exploit them if you see them with this vision? Of course, we're all a work in progress. So, you know, the ideal, first of all, we have the ideal, and then secondly, we try to apply that in our lives. We try to live up to the ideal, to the standard. We may fail in that because, as we know, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, as they say. And that is really true. It is true. But as much as we are able to do that, at least we should be able to conceive of that and then try to practice that in our day-to-day life. Try to see in that way, with that vision, and then try to practice that so that becomes a reality in our own thinking. So, then Gambira. Gambira means grave. Gambira. That, in fact, it means, you know, when Mahaprabhu stayed in the Gambira, which is the home of Kashi Mishra in Puri, it is referred to as the Gambira, or the tomb, you know, where Mahaprabhu spent his last 12 years in search of his inner life of contemplation on the service of Srimati Radharani. Then that is the Gambira. So that it also means that our outlook should be grave. It doesn't mean that we should be miserable. It doesn't mean, you know, that we should be like I remember one day I was going to see Srila Guru Maharaj in Navadvip. I was, you know, coming from my room and going to see, will Guru Maharaj speak this morning? We can hear something from Guru Maharaj. And when on the way there was another devotee also going in the same way. And he was from he was from Austria, I think, you know, like very Germanic nature. And I said to him, you know, happily, I just said, "Oh, good morning, Prabhu, how are you today?" And his reply was, "That is a relative conception." He said, so, oh, sorry, just asking. But, so not that kind of grave, you know, that we see, you know, that Vaishnavas are always jolly. They're always full of humor. Srila Govinda Maharaj, he was always making jokes and laughing so much. And that was like a tonic for us to see Gurudev when he was happily joking and laughing with the devotees. But still, the devotee is grave in as much as they understand that life is not trivial, that life isn't about being frivolous, that there is something important for us to do in this material world, something that we should give our time to seriously. We should contemplate seriously. We should seriously contemplate what is our position and how we are to progress in this world. And that means to be grave. We need to be serious, in other words, serious and sober. So one time, Srila Guru Maharaj was talking about the nature of devotion. And he was saying, it is so rare that real devotion, pure devotion is so rare that Brahma and Shiva are praying to get that. They are saying, we don't have that and we want to get that. He said, the Vedas, they're apologizing. Our job was to give you to the people, but we can't do that. We apologize that we are not up to the task. You know, so many high personalities who are also endeavoring for Krishna consciousness. And Guru Maharaj said, so he used this expression, do you think it's a fun? That means he meant, do you think it's a game? Something that you should just take like as a game? He's saying, you know, what we are attempting to do is so rare that it's almost impossible. That was the conclusion of Guru Maharaj's talk, maybe an hour-long talk, and he's telling in this way. And when the talk was over, we were all just like completely like on the verge of giving up. I remember thinking, now if the floor just opened up and swallowed me now, that would be okay, you know. And I think everyone was feeling like that. And then somebody asked Guru Maharaj, you know, some brave person voiced it. Then if it's almost impossible, why do we bother? Why are we even attempting it? And Guru Maharaj then he began laughing, you know, and he said, oh, we are not atheists. That we think if we don't get it in our fist in one life, then it's all over, you know, then it's all useless. And then he said, and anyhow, why worry about the end when the process is so much fun? And really, that's the truth. You know, Krishna consciousness is a very joyful thing. It's very joyful. We hear about the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. That brings joy to the heart of the devotees. We sing wonderful songs in praise of the Lord. That is a joyful experience. We take, you know, the wonderful Mahaprasadam of the Lord. We associate with the devotees of the Lord. And after all, you know, although we may all be flawed, and we may be imperfect in so many ways. My experience after 40 years of practicing Krishna consciousness or attempting to practice Krishna consciousness, my own experience is that the best people in the world are the devotees of Krishna. You won't find better people. And we are able to associate with those people every day. So then we can say, that actually the process of Krishna consciousness is great, it's wonderful, it's fun, it's joyful, it's happy. So we can be grave about what is this material world and what is our necessity here. We should be serious about that. But it doesn't mean that we should be, become like stoic and miserable. It is not about that. It is something else. So that is Gambira, grave. And Karuna, again, Karuna means compassionate. Karuna means, kindness, actually. Karuna means kindness. So a Vaishnava is always kind to everybody. Mahaprabhu taught that. Namaruche Jivadoya Vaishnava Sevan. Jivadoya, that is to be karuna, to be compassionate. Jivadoya means kindness to all living beings. We should be kind. We should be thoughtful in our dealings with others. And try to share with them Krishna consciousness as much as is possible by us. Whatever we have. Srila Gurudev said, that if you see somebody drowning in the river, then you may not be able to swim very well, but you don't say to them, okay, I'm just going to get some swimming lessons, and when I can swim nicely, I'll come back and I'll rescue you. No, with what you have now, you try and help, isn't it? You try to, as much as you can, try to rescue that person if you can. And it's the same thing, then if somebody's a doctor, they may not know everything about medicine. They may be a junior doctor, but it doesn't mean that until you have a full qualification, that you know every aspect of medicine, that you're not able to help somebody else. With what you have now, you may just be a medical student, but if somebody is suffering and you know the cure for that suffering, then you will try to help them. It is only natural. So we may not be, professors of Krishna consciousness. We may only be aspiring for Krishna consciousness. But whatever we know, whatever we have in our pocket, if you like, and we must have something, then we can try to share that with others. And that's the greatest type of compassion. It's not just about, feeding the suffering. That is not actual welfare work. Guru Maharaj say, just feeding the physical body, that will not give real help to anybody. To save somebody from drowning in the river, but you cannot do anything to help them from drowning in this material world of suffering, the ocean of suffering. Then that we should do. So, as the saying goes, physician, heal thyself. So we should try to become situated in a stable position in Krishna consciousness. When you're on the airplane, they say to you, if something happens and there's a loss of pressure, then oxygen mask will drop down from the thing above you, the ceiling above you, and they give this advice: make sure your own mask is fitted before you try to help anybody else. So if you're with your child and something like that happens, instinctively your idea may be, your impulse may be, let me get the mask on the child and then they'll be safe, first of all. But if in trying to do that you become unconscious, then you did not help your child and you did not help yourself. So it makes much better sense. Fit the mask over yourself so that you're safe. And when you're safe, you can help the person next to you, your child or whoever it may be. So physician, heal thyself. We should try to work on our own Krishna consciousness first. We cannot really help others if we have not ourselves have some position of stability in Krishna consciousness. But as much as we have, and we may consider that it is not very much, but still we can try to share that with others. We can try to point them in the right direction. So I may not be a very great example of a devotee, But my Gurudev, he is the topmost devotee. So I can say, if you want to have some help in Krishna consciousness, I cannot give it to you, but I can advise you of somebody that can help you. You try and connect with them and you will be benefited. That much we can do. Anyone can do. So that is karuna. And also karuna doesn't just mean that. Karuna means everything. It doesn't mean that therefore you'll be indifferent. You know, Saraswat Thakur, there's an example we heard, that when Saraswat Thakur was on the Brajamandal Parikram with his disciples, that as you go, you'll see many people begging. You know, there's old ladies begging in their, you know, bent over, and people sitting outside the temple gates of every temple with a begging bowl. And Saraswat Thakur, he saw that his disciples were not giving anything to the beggars, and so he stopped the parikram and sat everybody down and said, "You should not think that helping the needy is mundane. That helping those who are less fortunate than you, if you have the ability to help them, you should not think that that is mundane. Because if you stop giving to the needy, then eventually you'll also stop giving to the temple. You'll stop giving to the Vaishnavas. So you should never think like that. If you are able to help another, you should try to help them as much as possible and in a genuine way." So that is karuna. Karuna means merciful, compassionate, helpful to others in an honest way, compassionate way. And next is maitra. Maitra means a friend. So a devotee is the real friend of others. And Srila Gurudev used to say, you know, that this word friend is a very heavy word. He's saying, what does a real friend mean? A real friend means, you know, when I have nothing, that my friend takes care of me. My friend takes care of my family. That's what it means to be a friend to somebody. And he said, they'll always be with you. They'll always be beside you. You know, they say, a friend in need is a friend indeed. When you are in need, then you will see who are your real friends. Those who will actually come forward to help you. And Gurudev said, and they will be there to provide for you, and they will also be there to light the fire of your funeral. That is a friend, always with you, always there for you. So, and a devotee is the best friend to everybody, because they want to help, and they can help in a substantial way. So, you know, then, however somebody may be suffering, then a devotee can help that in a physical way, but also in a spiritual way. There's one famous self-help book which is called "All Sickness is Homesickness." And I haven't read that book, but I saw the title of the book and that appealed to me. Because actually that's our message. Our message is that everything we suffer from in this material world is actually just because of homesickness. That we want our home, we need our home. And Guru Maharaj says that the home means where everyone is more interested about your welfare than you are yourself. You may not be concerned about your own welfare, but everyone there is more concerned about you than you can be for yourself. We know that even in the mundane sense. When you're at home, you don't have to worry. You don't have to think, where's my next meal coming from? You don't have to think anything like that, because everyone there is concerned about your welfare more than you may be for your own self. So what to speak of our real home, our spiritual home? Srila Govinda Maharaj said we cannot imagine how much how much grace and how much mercy is waiting for us in our own home. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, we are all searching for home comfort. where we will feel most at home, and that is what the spiritual reality is about. Finding our own home, and finding our way to our own home. So that is Maitra. Maitra, they are your friend. And Kavi. Kavi means poetic. So a Vaishnava is naturally poetic in their expression, because in their attempt to glorify the Lord, that comes out in a very wonderful way, even if it is only, in the Srimad Bhagavatam says, even if improperly composed, that it can give the highest benefit to others, if it is because it is connected with the Lord. And we see, in the case of the higher Vaishnavas, they are poetic. Srila Guru Maharaj, we can say, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's compositions, they are wonderful. His compositions in Sanskrit, Bengali, and his original talks in English, they are all wonderful. No aspiring devotee of the Lord can read or hear those things and not be affected by that. That is kavi, poetic, and Guru Maharaj is always giving that type of poetic expression. Srila Guru Maharaj, actually, he said, I was born to preach in the English language. And we see that there's something heart captivating about his speaking, how he would speak and express himself, expressing the very complex ideas found in the scripture in a very sweet and charming way. That was his speciality, you can say. Srila Guru Maharaj, a wordsmith in every sense of the meaning of that. And Daksha. Daksha means expert. The devotee is always expert. And we see, Krishna says in the Gita, again, my devotees, whatever they have, I carry that, and whatever they lack, I provide it. So when something is connected with Lord Krishna, then it always becomes wonderful. So then Guru Maharaj said, when we try to serve the absolute beauty, then that service becomes absolutely beautiful. So this is natural that when one becomes a real servitor of the Lord, then one's fullest potential comes out, you can say. We can say that means, an expert means that they are the master of their potential, their fullest potential has been expressed, and that potential comes out to its fullest degree when it is in connection with Lord Krishna. So then we see that devotees, they can accomplish so many things. This morning we took down the domes off the top of the Singhasan, and Ishanuga and another devotee, Chandrakanti, they were cleaning that and polishing the domes and polishing the chakras from the top of the dome. And but I was reminded who made that altar, that Singhasan in our temple. When people come, they think, it must have been made in India, and then exported over here. But actually our devotee, our godbrother, Veni Madhava Prabhu, who lived in Ireland, sadly he's passed away now, but he lived in Ireland, and he made that, carved it with his own hands. And he was already like a qualified carpenter, but the domes, how they're constructed in such a way from timber, he told me, I learned, so that I was able to make those domes, I learned the art of barrel making, how to construct barrels, like they use for, wine or, whatever it is, wooden barrels. And with using that technique, he made the domes for the altar, for the Singhasan, and so very beautiful job, so beautiful, so wonderful his craftsmanship that everybody just assumes that temple was made in India and bought here. But it was not so, and he'd never made anything like that before. And beautiful, and still to this day, most beautiful Singhasan. So just by his attempt, he became an expert in those things. That is the nature of devotion. That it becomes, you can say, like, how is it possible? You know that Srila Prabhupada, when he was publishing Chaitanya Charitamrita, 18 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he told the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, we will publish 1 volume every month. So they published 18 volumes in 18 months. This is incredible, impossible. And these were all just young boys and girls who didn't know anything about publishing or anything. They learned that. They became expert in that for the service to their Gurudev. It is a wonderful thing. You know, scholars all over the world are baffled when they understand like how many books that Srila Prabhupada was able to publish, his own compositions or his own commentaries on these great scriptures in such a short time. It is incredible, phenomenal, and that is testimony that this is true, that a Vaishnava is expert. And finally, Moni. Moni means silent. So why silent? It is because the devotees don't talk about anything except Krishna. You know, I read somewhere, you know, maybe like a Buddhist saying or something like that, or, you know, some kind of Confucius said type of saying, but a wise saying, that if what you are about to say is not more beautiful than silence, then better to keep quiet. So this is, in this sense, we can say the Vaishnava is silent. Silent in as much as they're not engaging in the things of this world. They're not interested in the opinion of the people of this world. They're not interested in what's going on in this material world. They are only interested in Krishna and Krishna consciousness. That is that is the truth. Oh. Wow.
I can bring some.
No, it's okay. Bit of an accident there.
Sponge there, dark color.
Do you have
Sponge.
water is better?
It's only water, don't worry. Anyhow, so we're silent means they only speak about Krishna. They only speak about the service to Krishna, Krishna consciousness, and that which is related to that. So that is, in that sense, devotees speak a lot about Krishna consciousness. It is not that they just sit in silence or take a vow of silence. When I was younger, I went once to a meeting of Quakers, and the Quakers, that's what they do. When they have their meeting, they just sit in silence until and unless somebody feels inspired to say something. And if no one has any inspiration to say anything, they just sit silently. So this is okay, that's okay. It's better to be quiet and silent than to just be always babbling nonsense. This is, Srila Prabhupada gave that example, that in the jungle or in the forest, the frogs, they compete, like who can croak the loudest. They're all around the pond and one starts croaking, and then another one tries to outdo him, and then they're all of them croaking to see who has the loudest and the best croak. But what are they doing? They're just announcing to the snake, dinner is served, because the snake will come and eat them. So then we should not just be like croaking frogs, just announcing ourselves to the world, here I am, Maya, come and get me. Rather, we should be thoughtful in what we express, and it's very good advice. If what you want to say is not more beautiful than silence, then remain silent. So in this way, we can say the Vaishnavas are silent. The Vaishnavas aren't interested in politics. They're not interested in the zeitgeist. They're not interested in, all of the things that people are interested in, all of the celebrity gossip, all of the, whatever it may be. They're not interested in that. Srila Guru Maharaj said, when I first came to the Gaudiya Math, I noticed this, I marked this, that the devotees there, they don't care for the opinion of anybody, but they want to hear very much what is the opinion of the saints and what is the conclusion of the scriptures. And anyone else, they're not concerned about that. This is the meaning of that, silent. So these are the 26 qualities of the Vaishnavas, and we are to try to develop those qualities in ourselves as much as is possible. And if we know what those qualities, we will try to see what are those qualities in the others and how I can acquire those for myself. And I just see, and luckily I can see, because usually I can't, because my eyesight's so bad, but for some reason it's not too bad today. It says, so from Braja Mohini Didi, she's asking, but some Vaishnavas are interested in politics, what then? Well, as I said before, we're all work in progress, But of course, for preaching Krishna consciousness, it may be useful for us to understand what's going on in the world. But actually, we're indifferent to that. And that's one of the wonderful things about Krishna consciousness, because we see, our experience is that some Vaishnavas, they prefer socialism, and some Vaishnavas, they are very strongly conservative. We can see that. And that's the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness, is that it crosses all of those boundaries, and it can accommodate all of those things. But ultimately, we're only interested in what the scripture says and what Krishna says, and we do not want to involve ourselves with the politics of this world, really. But if someone is interested in that, then they're interested in that. What can we say? Just like some devotees may be interested in art or music or, film or whatever it is. That's not pure devotion, but it's just a fact of life that some devotees are interested in those things. Then what will we do? What can we do? Then we should attempt to be the best devotee that we can be, and follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. It is true that sometimes it's necessary to think about politics in our everyday life, you can say. Even Srila Sridhar Maharaj, when I was living in the mott in Navadvip back in the 1980s, at that time, West Bengal was ruled by the Communist Party. And everywhere there's like hammer and sickle, slogans painted on the wall everywhere. Then I was there during when there was an election, and so the Congress Party were opposing the Communist Party, and the ruling party at that time was the Communist Party, and the Communist Party they made pass some laws one of those laws which affected our temple was that any kunda or pond that is not fished, the government can take possession of that. And any field that is not cultivated, any land that isn't cultivated, the government can take possession of that. Because they're communists, so this is their idea, that everything should be for the benefit of everybody. So then Guru Maharaj, outside the temple, there is Govinda Kund. And generally, we are not, it is a sacred kunda, and we are not allowing people to fish in there. Although I have to say, when I was there once, there was a young boy there with it. He had a carrier bag, and he was catching fish in the carrier bag to take home for dinner. But so as not to lose the kund to the communist government, then Guru Maharaj had to enter into some arrangement with the local village people that they would be allowed to fish in the kund, so that the government would not take the kund there. And then when the election came, and that was a very quite hair-raising time, like it's not like in the West. There they go in mobs. From each supporters of each party, they go down the road chanting slogans, and when they meet each other, there's a fight. They're throwing bricks at each other, and even bombs. They're making like homemade bombs and throwing them at each other. And I was staying down on the land near the temple at that time for Guru Maharaj, and when I'd wake up in the morning, you could hear like gunfire and stuff over from the train station. It was all going on. People were being killed. It was like really exciting in some ways, very kind of on the edge of your seat all the time. But we see that those who were registered in the temple, means like Hari Charan Prabhu and Krishna Charan Prabhu and others, Guru Maharaj had them register to vote and sent them to the ballot box so they could cast their vote against the Communist Party, because the communists are not helpful for devotion. They're against religion, isn't it? They're against religion. So for that reason, then Guru Maharaj had his devotees that would vote, cast their vote to try and bring a Congress Party into power rather than the Communist Party. So sometimes these things are necessary, in life. We have to think, and that will also be gauged by our through the lens of devotion, you can say. So if we're going to support some political party, it would be the criteria for why we would support that particular party is, will devotion to Krishna be allowed by that government? Will they foster that? Will they respect that? Or will they try and do away with that? And obviously, a communist government, they're against religion. They want to do away with religion altogether. So, therefore, Guru Maharaj considered, we know that politics is basically choosing the least of, the better of the two evils, so to say. Chanakya Pandit said, never trust a politician. So it's often a choice of like the lesser of two evils. But we will not think that any political system will give us fulfillment in life. That we will get what we desire in life by supporting some political ideal. Because as the song says, there is no political solution. The truth is that what will be most helpful to Krishna consciousness, we will try and support that. But we do not think. And in fact, Srila Gurudev, when he was here, he said, somebody was saying, oh, maybe there's some grant we can get from the government to help the temple and so on. And Srila Gurudev said, don't think that the government will help you, because the government are always in favor of the asuras. That's it. That's the truth. That's the truth. It's all about cronyism, isn't it? You know, whatever the political ideal may be, they're all out. They're all out for their own cause, and not the cause of Krishna consciousness. That's how it is today. No, you can't get money from the government to help with religion. In fact, they want to say, we're secular, we don't have anything to do with that religion. If you want religion, that's fine, but it's up to you to sort that out. So anyhow, yes, it is true that devotees may have so many interests about the things of this world, but that's always secondary to our interest in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness will not be affected by any political movement. And this example we know, Srila Guru Maharaj, he said, when I was a young man, that time, Mahatma Gandhi was recruiting everybody and saying, if you give me 2 years of your life, I'll give you Swaraj, I'll give you independence from the British. So Guru Maharaj said, then I can give 2 years of my life. And as a young man, he became an advocate, because he was by his profession, by his qualification, he was a lawyer. So he became like an advocate for Gandhi's Home Rule Party, and he worked for them as a volunteer in the offices in Calcutta. And then he said, but after I joined the Mott, then I found I was opposing the very people that I was in line with before. He said so. I don't know what the point I was making there actually, but yeah. So then so we would just have to see that our spiritual life isn't actually affected by the political posturings of people in this world. As people, we may have, and according to our nature, we may feel greater sympathy for a particular political ideal than another. But that it's all, we should understand that it's all part of Maya. It's all part of Maya. And we will not find any solution to the problems of this material world. Somebody asked, when I was in the Ukraine a few years ago, and one lady asked me, I was giving a talk there, and she asked me, if God loves us, why doesn't he just make everything perfect in the world? And my reply was, well, if he thought it was necessary to do that, he would have already done that. But actually, the reason why there's so many problems in this material world is to remind us that it's not our home. If everything was perfect for us, we might think, yeah, it's all right, yeah, I think I'll stay. Isn't it? But when there's so much problem in the world, from every aspect, and everybody's trying to solve it from their own little perspective, then we have to think, really, this isn't our home. Because in our own home, we shouldn't have to experience this kind of level of discomfort. We're just in a foreign land and trying to make the best of that we can in this foreign land. But we know that the way home is we take shelter of our embassy. Like if you're in another country and a war breaks out, you go to the embassy, don't you? You go to your embassy, and they'll arrange for you to be evacuated and go home and all of those things, So that's usually what happens there. So, we're in this world. Oh, it's come back. So we're like that. We're like living in a foreign country, and the war's broken out. So then we should try and take shelter of our embassy, try and find our those representatives of our home that can help us. And that's the fact. Our home is the spiritual sky. Our home is Vrindavan. Our home is Vaikuntha, our real purpose. We shouldn't be deviated from our real purpose, and our real purpose is back to home, back to God. Back to home, back to Godhead.
It's a communist country.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Used to be.
But so that's really not important. It's the main thing is that we will try to go home and try to utilize our time for that. Trying to understand where is our home, what is the route back to home, and then actually realizing that. That's called Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. And this is the subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita from the beginning. So we ought to try and concentrate our thinking on that and not on anything of this material world. So we'll finish there for today, and then we can do arti. Apologize to who was watching. We had a few times there where the is welcome to come for
Saturday
that.
afternoon?
Saturday again from about 11 in the morning. Yeah, so I don't know why, but our internet is fritzing out here. But yeah, back online now. So next Wednesday, Ram Nomi, and next Saturday, the disappearance of Srila Govinda Maharaj. Those two festivals we'll be observing here, and we will welcome everybody that wants to come, as long as it doesn't get too full. But as much as possible, we can try and accommodate everyone. So thanks to everybody for listening. Now we will close our meeting for today. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta
Jai Jagadada,